Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and we have a very, very busy show in store for you. Thank you to everybody reaching out over the weekend. We've got a lot of comments to get to. By the way, the comment section of our program now brought to you by Stu Benz Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. Give them a call today at 607-664-2298 or go online to StuBenzSeniorServicesFund.org. So let's get to those comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Something just popped into my head, and I wanted to not forget come Monday morning. I'm curious to see if the viewers watch Empire State Weekly, the interviews in particular. And if so, what is their opinions overall? Have a good weekend. Well, thank you. I did have a good weekend. So there is your question. Do you watch Empire State Weekly? Thank you for that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I'd like to know what the viewers think of the Corning, Inc. $1.8 million grant to Corning Painted Post School District. I, for one, hope we return to the polls and vote the budget down in even greater numbers. Just for what it's worth, even though my initial reaction was to just quit voting. I understand that initial reaction. Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to have the numbers of what the budget is going to look like. We're going to talk about Corning, Inc. in just a second. So thank you for that comment. I'd love to know what other viewers thought of that donation. Comment from Mark. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. A trans athlete wins at girls' track finals in California, going against Trump's executive order banning trans from competing in women's sports. And the Canadian smoke is coming back. Oh, I did not realize the Canadian smoke is coming back. Thank you, Mark, for those updates. On Friday's program, we asked what you think the name should be, the bureaucratic name for the cow counters. Now, if you didn't watch Friday, you're probably confused. The cow counters, there's a bill in Albany brought forth by representatives from Brooklyn and Manhattan, I believe it was, that would limit the amount of cows you can have on your farm to 700, no more than 700. Former Congressman and current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski released a statement on it that we brought to you on Friday, and we decided to have a little fun with it. And here are a few we missed during the program, and sometimes I don't do the best at checking email, so I apologize. But Carol writes in, Musk is available now. He has satellites. He could zero in on any farm with technology to count, making him count bovine. Oh, I like that. Has a nice cowbell ring to it. Thank you, Carol. Yes, he could zero in. He could be the cow counter. Another person writes in, the Bureau of Farm Compliance, or maybe the Bureau of Farm Bovine Compliance. Thank you very much for all those. And you can continue your suggestions. What the bureaucratic name would be for a cow counter. One viewer writing in that that's their dream job. They want to be the person to make sure there's not 701 cows. So to that other viewer's point, look at all these waves coming. You guys are busy on this Monday morning. Thank you so much. We're already up to 9. But Corning Incorporated announced on Friday a $1.8 million grant awarded to the Corning Painted Post School District in support of their annual budget. The grant, announced on May 30th at the special budget meeting, seeks to help maintain the quality of local education for the benefit of the greater Corning community. We're asking your opinion on that. One viewer would like to hear your thoughts on it. Millicent Ruffin, Division Vice President, said Corning seeks mutual success among all our stakeholder groups, including the communities where we do business. A key pillar of that success lies in accessibility to a quality education and vital support programs. Our commitment to education is rooted in the belief that by making meaningful investments, we can create a positive, lasting impact on the quality of life where we and our neighborhoods live and work. Or we and our neighbors, live and work. This grant underpins Corning's long-standing commitment to enhancing communities through investment in education, arts and culture, small business development, workforce development, and more. You can visit their website for more information. So your thoughts on that? Does it change your opinion when it comes to where you'll be voting on the Corning Painted Post school budget? There is going to be another vote. Now, surprisingly, it looks as if it will stay under the cap. What we're seeing so far, that's a surprise to me. I figured they'd come in. Like I said, I'll eat crow, if you will. I thought it would be not the 8% that they wanted, but around 6% or something like that, and then try to ease people's minds that they tried their hardest. So it's interesting. We're going to get the numbers for you a little bit later on. But yes, Corning Inc. donating $1.8 million to the Corning Paine Post School District. Your thoughts on how that changes or doesn't change your vote on the school budget. Okay, the breaking news from yesterday. FBI and law enforcement respond to what is being called a terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. Several people were injured and some may have been set on fire at an outdoor mall in Boulder, Colorado. Police said a man was taken into custody in the attack that the FBI immediately described as a targeted terror attack. Boulder Police Chief Steve Redfern told reporters yesterday evening that it was too early to discuss a motive, but the witnesses were being interviewed. It would be irresponsible for me to speculate on motive this early on. This is coming from the AP. Now, the alleged terrorist was shouting "Free Palestine" and other kind of, we see this anti-Semitic language. So to say it's too early to speculate is maybe being a little too cautious. The Boulder attack took place at a popular pedestrian mall known for attracting tourists and college students. On Sunday, demonstrators with a volunteer group called Run for Their Lives had gathered to call for the release of hostages who remain in Gaza. The group has multiple chapters across the world that meet to walk to advocate for hostage releases. Sunday's attack also occurred as law enforcement authorities in the U.S. grapple with a spike in anti-Semitic violence. And last week, a man was arrested on charges in the fatal shooting of 2 Israeli embassy staffers and shouted "Free Palestine" as he was being led away by police. We're going to tell you a little bit more about this. This is breaking from overnight. Colorado Governor Jared Polis said in a statement that he was closely monitoring the situation, adding that hate-filled acts of any kind are unacceptable. FBI Director Kash Patel shared on social media, "Our agents and local law enforcement are on the scene already, and we will share updates as more information becomes available." Now, this is a huge uptick that we've been seeing across the country in anti-Semitic protests, anti-Semitic violence. What we know, according to CNN, that the incident took place during a Boulder Run for Their Lives event, as I had mentioned, a weekly gathering of Jewish community members meant to support the hostages taken during the October 7th attacks in Israel back in 2023. That is according to the Anti-Defamation League. There are 6 victims ranging in the age from 67 to 88. One victim was very seriously injured, according to Boulder Police Chief Stephen Redfern. 4 victims were taken to Boulder Community Hospital. 2 victims were airlifted to the Denver metro area. All 6 victims are still being treated. The suspect, Solomon, what's his first name? Mohammed Sabri Solomon, 45 years old, acted alone and is not part of a larger group or network, according to, who is that according to? FBI Denver Special Agent in Charge, Mark Millikat. In 2005, he was denied a visa to enter the United States. It's unclear when or how the suspect entered into the U.S. Solomon will be charged in the coming days, according to Boulder County District Attorney Michael Daughtry. Federal criminal charges are expected in the case, according to CNN, sources familiar with the investigation. It is unclear if Solomon has an attorney at the time. So it was what is being deemed a targeted terror attack with Molotov cocktails and a makeshift flamethrower, injuring 8 while shouting "Free Palestine." There's video capturing the alleged attack. The man shirtless with Molotov cocktails and a makeshift flamethrower. He was in the middle, Mohammed Sabri Solomon, in the middle of a tirade about Palestine and calling for the death of, quote, Zionists. "They are killers. How many children you killed?" the shirtless man said. "End Zionist," he screamed in the clips. Now, 4 men and 4 women were wounded, as I mentioned, in the terror attack. The 88-year-old female victim fled Europe during the Nazis' reign of terror, said Rabbi Israel Wilhelm. Solomon, who was arrested at the scene, was also hospitalized. The crazed firebug, as the New York Post puts it, was holding bottles of clear liquid while waiting for the group outside the downtown courthouse. He then apparently lit the liquid and threw the containers at the walkers, striking 5 people and badly burning one woman who had to roll on the ground to extinguish the flames. The initial callers indicated that there was a man with a weapon and the people were being set on fire. They said at the press conference, "We were on scene very quickly. When we arrived, we encountered multiple victims that were injured with injuries consistent with burns and other injuries. The suspect was pointed out by the crowd and taken into custody without incident. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that it is a targeted act of violence and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism. Sadly, attacks like this are becoming too common across the country. This is an example of how perpetrators of violence continue to threaten communities across our nation." And we've talked about extensively on this program the rise of anti-Semitic attacks, the murder of that young couple just last week. Now this. Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, tweeted, "The Biden administration granted the alien a visa, and then when he illegally overstayed, they gave him a work permit. Immigration security is national security. No more hostile migration. Keep them out and send them back." DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said late last night, "Our agents and local law enforcement are on the scene already, and we will share updates as more information becomes available." So that is your kind of quick update on that breaking story. I see some comments coming in. The Anti-Defamation League is also monitoring the attack and noted its timing mere hours before a Jewish holiday that always takes place 7 weeks after Passover's conclusion. Again, yelling such things as Free Palestine. And, you know, that's why we've said from the beginning on this program that it's not something you can just laugh at as college students start their encampments and have their protests. It's not something we can say, well, it's just young kids. This is, unfortunately, growing. This is a very troubling trend. Even when it comes to the politics of it, we quote Van Jones so often on this program, who said there's a marbling of anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party, pushing these types of narratives. We are going to talk a little bit more about this when we come back. We have just a little bit more information on it. Also, we have some New York State updates. We also have some media updates, more about President Biden and the cover-up of his mental acuity. And we have, well, we got a lot we're going to talk about. But I want to hear your thoughts on all the issues of the day. So let's take our first break. Just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
I'm Mary Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
What better start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
If you have one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Viewer comment, again, viewer comments brought to you by Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. Go online to SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Comment from a viewer. Why wouldn't Corning Incorporated donate to the Corning Pin Post School District? Because the school is built on a glassworks dump site. Thank you very much. Corning announcing $1.8 million grant to support the Corning Pin Post School District budget as that budget is put back up for a vote. Your thoughts? Will you vote yes? Will you vote no? Your thoughts in general. We're talking about the Colorado terrorist attack. Again, the terrorist shouting "Free Palestine" as he attacked a peaceful demonstration. One member of the Boulder Run for Their Lives chapter said this was a humanitarian walk. This was not a protest. I'm distraught. Again, as that shirtless man yelling "Free Palestine." Aaron Brooks, a regular with the Run for Their Lives, showed up just after the attack where he was discovered a completely chaotic scene. I saw smoke, I saw blood. Solomon, just 10 feet away from him, yelled, "You burned our people." Solomon was still yelling when he approached the attacker, who had a makeshift flamethrower and Molotov cocktails, as I mentioned in the last segment. So, again, being called a targeted terror attack, where the suspect, Mohammed Sabri Solomon, we learn originally entered the United States through the Los Angeles International Airport on August 27, 2022. Solomon arrived with a non-immigrant visa and was permitted to stay through February 26 of 2023. Instead, he overstayed his original visa. After filing a claim, he was cleared for working authorization by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services on March 29, 2023. But that second chance only lasted through this March, meaning Solomon has remained in the United States illegally for a little over 2 months. So that is your update on that breaking story from overnight. As I mentioned, Stephen Miller highlighting that he was here illegally. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu condemned the attack, releasing a statement saying this attack was aimed against peaceful people who wish to express their solidarity with the hostages held by Hamas simply because they were Jews. He said he believes the U.S. will prosecute the cold-blooded perpetrator to the fullest extent of the law. Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, responded, saying terrorism against Jews does not stop at the Gaza border. It is already burning the streets of America. Today in Boulder, Colorado, Jewish people marched with a moral and humane demand to return the hostages. In response, the Jewish protesters were brutally attacked, with an attacker throwing a Molotov cocktail at them. Make no mistake, this is not a political protest. This is terrorism. The time for statements are over. It's time for concrete action to be taken against the instigator, wherever they may be. So unfortunately, this rise in the, just like I mentioned, on college campuses, I have examples of it that we're going to get to here in just a moment. But you see the media pushing lies and narratives. You see the college professors, the grown-ups in the room encouraging the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses. And unfortunately, it's not just on college campuses, as we've seen recently. Here's an example. CNN and the BBC ran with fake news pushed by Hamas that claimed Sunday that dozens of Palestinians were killed at a U.S.-backed humanitarian aid site in Gaza. According to evidence released later in the day, Hamas claimed that more than 30 Palestinian civilians had been fired upon by the Israeli Defense Forces at one of the Gaza humanitarian foundation aid distribution sites. The IDF denied it, and former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett also pushed back. As Bennett noted, major Western media outlets, notably CNN and the BBC, had run this story and given it great prominence without checking to verify whether the Hamas claims were in fact accurate. And we see the media very often running with Hamas-backed numbers, with Hamas basically PR, press releases, and public relations. The IDF released a statement saying in recent hours, false reports have been spread, including serious allegations against the IDF regarding fire toward Gazan residents in the area of the humanitarian aid distribution site in the Gaza Strip. Findings from an initial inquiry indicate that the IDF did not fire at civilians while they were near or within the humanitarian aid distribution site, and that reports to this effect are false. The IDF is cooperating with the American Civil Organization and international aid organizations in order to enable the distribution of aid to the Gazan residents and not to Hamas. Hamas does everything in its power to undermine food distribution efforts in the Gaza Strip. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization that starves and endangers the population in order to preserve its control over the Gaza Strip. As part of its brutal behavior and its attempts to disrupt humanitarian aid, Hamas directly harms the residents of Gaza. The IDF calls on the media to be cautious with information published by the Hamas terrorist organization, as proven in several previous incidents. The fact that the media has to be told to not accept Hamas at its numbers, but you see, you push this type of propaganda being sent by Hamas, and it creates this anger. That's why they need to be cautious. It creates this radicalization. Just like we're seeing at college campuses. As a matter of fact, over the weekend, and this is a little bit late story. This came in after Friday's broadcast, but I think it ties in something that should be mentioned. Jewish students stormed out of their graduation ceremony after a Massachusetts Institute of Technology commencement speaker accused the institution of supporting the erasure of Palestine from the face of the earth. So this has become kind of the fad. If you are a commencement speaker, if you are a valedictorian or salutatorian, you take that as an opportunity for some reason to preach this kind of anti-Semitism. Megan Vemuri, president of the class of 2025, sparked a mixture of boos and cheers as she started her controversial speech. But again, being one of these radicalized protesters makes you, unfortunately, popular. On college campuses, this makes you cool. Those that can act the most aggrieved or make people the most uncomfortable with their radicalized political protests, that makes you one of the cool kids. They look at this as an opportunity to push this kind of hate. Again, Megan Vemuri, president of the class of 2025, saying, "You have faced the obstacle of fear before and turned it into fuel to stand up for what is right. You showed the world that MIT wants a free Palestine." That's when some students stood up and waved the Palestinian flag. Continuing, last spring, MIT's undergraduate body and graduate student union voted overwhelmingly to cut ties with a genocidal Israeli military. You called for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, and you stood in solidarity with the pro-Palestine activists on campus. You faced threats, intimidation, and suppression coming from all directions, especially your own university officials. But you prevailed because the MIT community that I know would never tolerate a genocide. She continued her speech, claiming that no universities remain in war-torn Gaza, as the divided crowd chanted in solidarity, with others actually walking out of their graduation ceremony and shouting shame. Think about this. You had just paid all that money to get your college education, your parents there, you're proud of your graduation day, you're all dressed up, and you get lectured in this anti-Semitic way by one of the commencement speakers. So you're forced, whether you're in the Jewish community or not, you're forced to stand up for what is right and walk out. What a disappointment. This is continuing to happen. That's why it's so nice to see the Trump administration cracking down on this anti-Semitic rise on college campuses. The speaker continued saying, "We are watching Israel try to wipe Palestine off the face of the earth, and it is a shame that MIT is part of it." The Israeli occupation forces are the only foreign military that MIT has research ties with. This means that Israel's assault on the Palestinian people is not only aided and abetted by our country, but our school. She concluded the divisive address by condemning the university of being directly complicit in the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people. Her contentious remarks led to her being barred from attending Friday's undergraduate ceremony. An MIT spokesperson told Fox News, "MIT supports free expression but stands by its decision, which was in response to the individual deliberately and repeatedly misleading commencement organizers and leading a protest from the stage, disrupting an important institute ceremony." One Israeli graduate told the outlet that all Jewish families, not only the Israelis, walked out of what was supposed to be a happy occasion. Quote, "All of our families came from far to see the ceremony and were extremely disappointed." Also, we learn, I'm running late. Yeah, let me take a short break. We've got more on college campuses, more on this anti-Semitism run amok. We'll be talking about that, reading your comments. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In the world's poorest places, children with cleft conditions live in darkness and shame. They're shunned, outcast, living in pain. You can reach out and change the life of a suffering child right now. A surgery that takes as little as 45 minutes. And your act of love can change a child's life forever. Please call or visit operationsmile.org now. Thousands of children are waiting.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And let's read a viewer comment. Again, viewer comments brought to you by Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. Visit SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org to find out more. Comment from a viewer. The school district, meaning Corning Painted Post, the school district is still cutting anything but the fat, even security. Have they made promises to cut the overpaid staff? No. Just things that hurt the kids. Again, they are ignoring the people they work for. And that's in regards to our discussion about the $1.8 million grant that Corning Incorporated gave to the Corning Painted Post School District. So your thoughts on that? Does it change your opinion on how you will be voting on the second vote, budget vote? Okay, we were talking about this anti-Semitism. Well, a top CUNY official is spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and lies that Israel was in on or welcomed Hamas's October 7, 2023 massacre as a pretext to take over the Gaza Strip. Arthur Chelitotes, 76, the board chairman of CUNY's School of Labor and Urban Studies, posted an online thread that compared Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Adolf Hitler. So this should come as no surprise if you're talking about CUNY officials, which is very much like SUNY, but just for the city, of course. Why would you suspect, if this is a quote-unquote grown-up in the room, why would you suspect anything or expect anything different when it comes to these kids? That's what we've been saying from the beginning. This isn't discouraged, it's encouraged by the administration, the faculty, the staff in many instances. I'm not going to read the filth that he posted, but it should just paint the overall picture. Now, we've been talking about college campuses, and I thought we're going to move on from this, but I thought this was very interesting. U.S. schools, and one Harvard in particular, have long offered up-and-coming Chinese officials a place to study governance, a practice that the Trump administration could end with a new effort to keep out what it says are Chinese students with Communist Party ties. For decades, the party has sent thousands of mid-career and senior bureaucrats to pursue executive training and postgraduate studies on U.S. campuses, with Harvard University a coveted destination described by some in China as the top, quote, party school outside the country. Alumni of such programs include a former vice president and Chinese leader Xi Jinping's top negotiator in trade talks with the Trump administration. In an effort announced Wednesday by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, U.S. authorities will tighten criteria for visa applications from China and aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. The statement didn't say how the Trump administration would assess Communist Party ties or what degree of connection would result in revocation of visas. And China party membership is widely seen as helpful for career advancement in government and the private sector and is typically a prerequisite for officials seeking high office. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Mao Ning said Thursday that the U.S. move, quote, seriously damaged the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese students. So again, Kennedy's School of Government at Harvard is favored by the Chinese party, seeking to boost their careers. That kind of ties in with, man, we've got a lot to cover today. This just hit me. This kind of ties in with a story that I saw across my desk this morning. Pete Hegseth. In full disclosure, I forgot to mention this. In full disclosure, I actually interviewed Pete Hegseth back in the day on radio, and that just came across my Facebook post. You're probably wondering how I forgot. That's a great question. Keep in mind it was during COVID, and he wasn't as famous back then as he is now. But in full disclosure, I have interviewed Pete Hegseth in the past. China criticized U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Sunday for his, quote, vilified remarks filled with, quote, provocations in which he said the Asian country poses a legitimate threat in the Indo-Pacific. The Chinese foreign minister said Hegseth touted a Cold War mentality when he delivered his speech on Saturday at the security conference in Singapore. In the statement, they said Hegseth deliberately ignored the call for peace and development by countries in the region and instead touted the Cold War mentality for bloc confrontation, vilified China with defamatory allegations, and falsely called China a threat. The remarks were filled with provocation and intended to sow discord. China deplores and firmly opposes them and has protested strongly to the U.S. No country in the world deserves to be called hegemonic power other than the U.S. itself, which is also the primary factor undermining the peace and stability in the Asia Pacific. Now, on Saturday, Hegseth said the U.S. will bolster its defense overseas to counter what the Pentagon views as rapidly developing threats by China, particularly towards Taiwan, which Beijing claims as its own. The Chinese army, quote, is rehearsing for the real deal, Hegseth said. We are not going to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real, and it could be imminent. We've talked about this numerous times in the past, even speaking of a great conversation probably a year ago now, which is hard to believe, with former Congressman Tom Reed on this specific issue. The Pentagon chief said China is no longer building up its military forces to take Taiwan, but it is actively training for it every day.
Addressing the dispute over Taiwan, the Chinese foreign minister said in a statement that the matter is China's internal affair and the U.S. should never play with fire. Quote, no country is in a position to interfere. The U.S. should never imagine it could use the Taiwan question as leverage against China. The U.S. must never play with fire on this question. China urges the U.S. to fully abide by the One China principle and the Three China-U.S. point communiques and stop supporting and emboldening the Taiwan independence separatist forces. All right, we're covering a lot this morning, jumping around all over the place. Keep your comments coming in. I'd love to hear from you, but we've got to take a short break. We're running late. I could tell we were going to cover a lot this morning. We do have some New York State issues. Again, you can feel free to weigh in if you have a bureaucratic name for the cow counters in New York. That was a fun conversation we had on Friday. Weighing in on the anti-Semitic terrorist attack, breaking late yesterday. We also have some updates on Ukraine and also about the cover-up of Biden's health. We'll be getting to that a little bit later on. If you watch the Sunday shows, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. But let's get to this break, and then we will be back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Hey there, Jane Lynch here. You want to hear something funny? Too bad. You want to hear something uplifting that will inspire you? Good. Because today, I want to talk to you about Direct Relief, a humanitarian organization that does seriously good work when it counts. Fires, hurricanes, earthquakes. When disaster strikes, Direct Relief immediately shows up with medicines, medical supplies, and everything doctors and nurses need to save lives. Let's ship her out! Every day across the United States and around the world, they're making an enormous difference. If someone needs help, Direct Relief helps. No politics, no red tape. Hey, what you doing over there?
Oh, I'm packing insulin for kids with diabetes.
See, every box here is literally a lifeline for someone in critical need. So check them out at directrelief.org. You might just bring a smile to someone's face.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street here in Corning. Also breaking news coming out yesterday, the brazen Ukrainian blitz of Russian warplanes was 18 months in the making, and the Pentagon was kept in the dark until it was over, according to Fox News. Operation Spider's Web, a series of coordinated drone strikes penetrating deep into Russian territory, is believed to have taken out dozens of Russia's most powerful bomber jets and surveillance planes as they sat idle on 5 military airfields. The stunning operation was personally overseen by President Zelensky and Ukraine's security service. Ukraine used small FPV drones hidden inside wooden cabins mounted on trucks. When the trucks reached their target, the roof opened by remote control and the drones were launched. In a statement on X, Zelensky called the operation an absolutely brilliant result and said it was achieved solely by Ukraine. He said the mission took 1 year, 6 months, and 9 days from the start of planning to effective execution, and described it as our most long-range operation. He added that our people involved in preparing the operation were withdrawn from Russia territory in time, and thanked his General Maluk for the success.
Zelensky said some details could not be disclosed yet, but declared, quote, "These are Ukrainian actions that will undoubtedly be in history books. Ukraine is defending itself, and rightly so." Now, Russia is calling the strike a terrorist act, but said its forces repelled the attack. Still, the ministry admitted several aircrafts caught fire, and Russian officials said some suspects had been arrested. Ukraine said 117 drones were used. But again, Ukraine did not give Trump advance notice on this. The sneak attack came as Ukrainian negotiators are set to meet with their Russian counterparts in Istanbul today, awkward, to present their latest offer during peace talks. Now, there was, according to the New York Post editorial board, they said, hand it to the Ukrainians. They're not only fighting heroically on more than 3 years after Moscow launched its savage and utterly unprovoked war to destroy their nation, they're fighting with style. The latest, of course, is Sunday's surprise drone strike. Then again, Vlad's secret police were caught clueless back when the Wagner Group launched its aborted coup 2 years ago. Putin should be losing sleep over what else his minions might be missing. And any Russian patriots looking to save their country from the disastrous misrule can only be emboldened. Nor can Moscow complain that Kiev launched these strikes on the eve of a fresh set of peace talks. Putin is the one who's refusing any kind of ceasefire, and he's had his forces in overdrive ever since President Trump launched his diplomatic drive to stop the slaughter. Kiev was entirely right not to let Washington know these strikes were coming. By the way, as Israelis will tell you, the D.C. defense establishment has a recently proven track record of broadcasting our friends' war plans against even mutual enemies like Iran. A single American loose lip could have alerted Moscow to the operation, turning it into from a Russian humanitarian or from a Russian humiliation to a bitter loss for Ukraine. Adding to Kiev's points, the damaged planes, $7 billion worth. The Ukraine estimate, even as the Russians, of course, claim the whole thing failed, including many of the strategic bombers central to Moscow's ultimate doomsday deterrent. That is, Putin and his spokespeople have spent the last 3 years pointedly hinting that they're going nuclear if the West helps Ukraine too much. It's pure poetic justice if his refusal to make peace has now left Russia vulnerable to a nuclear first strike. It's more clear than ever that Putin won't make peace unless and until continued his war-making threatens him. Ukraine's attack has done just that. The Senate should double down on the message by passing the bipartisan secondary sanctions bill ASAP. Make Putin fear for his own survival. It's all he truly cares about. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio doubled down on President Trump's demand for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. He told Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Sunday that both sides needed to engage in direct talks to achieve a lasting peace. The message came after Ukraine's forces wiped out and damaged 41 of the Kremlin's nuclear bombers and aircrafts, attacking at least 4 air bases across Russia. The attack, codenamed Operation Spider's Web, took some 18 months of planning, as I mentioned. Hundreds of drones were used. At least 12 Ukrainian soldiers were killed and another 60 injured when one of the projectiles hit an army training base more than 620 miles from the front lines. The attacks on Ukraine, which have ramped up in intensity in the recent months, prompted Trump to slam Russian President Vladimir Putin as crazy last week. Zelensky has repeatedly called Putin to accept a 30-day U.S.-backed ceasefire agreement to lay the groundwork for a deal to end the war, which has raged on for more than 3 years. It's hard to believe that has been 3 years. Okay, so that's kind of your breaking stories. We've got some other interesting, I think, news coming out. We are going to talk about New York State issues. We do have a few things here about Biden, a couple things here about the big, beautiful bill, the one big, beautiful bill. We may talk about that as well. Your thoughts, and we are talking local issues. Your thoughts on Corning Incorporated giving that grant of $1.8 million to the Corning Painted Post School District. Does that change your position? Does it solidify your decision? How you're going to vote on the school budget? But we got to take a short break. A couple economic updates when we come back. We're covering a lot this morning. I'm glad that you're part of it. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
It's the 2025 Cardboard Boat Regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
If you're button doing this to make yourself feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Haley Livingston, Big Fox News, Corning, New York.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
Oh no. I wonder if we had some wind. The roof cam. Down and out. We have to restart it, I think. But thank you to Boss Security for bringing us that view normally. We appreciate it. Let's go to some viewer comments. Again, viewer comments section of our program brought to you by Steuben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. Go online to SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Okay, comments from viewers. A good name for the 700 cow limit is CCC, Counting Cow. I'm going to assume commission. This says collision, but I'm assuming Counting Cow Commission. I like that, CCC. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, I had to laugh at a comment from Raphael Warnock on Meet the Depressed. Kristen Walker asked him if he liked the plan being proposed to keep the border closed in the big, beautiful bill. Instead of answering, he said the Democrats worked last year to pass an immigration reform bill that would have fixed the problem. But the Republicans killed the bill to get Trump reelected. We have heard that statement from Democrats many times in the past, which is aimed at the sheeple, who are low information voters and lack the ability to critically think. If you take a second to think about what that statement says, the Republicans killed the bill to get Trump elected, which would mean that the Democrats knew that more than half the electorate didn't like the bill being proposed by them and liked what Trump was proposing on closing the border and deporting the criminals that have illegally entered our country. It's comical that the Democrats won't allow themselves to comprehend that their ideas on immigration aren't held by more than half of the country. Thank you, Ken. So you did watch a little bit of the Sunday shows. I appreciate it. We do have a couple updates on the big, beautiful bill a little bit later on. But first, this is something the media is not reporting on, but we're going to report on it here because I think it's very important. The prices of eggs has dropped just over 61% since Donald Trump took office in January. It spiked to an all-time high back in March. But the most recent data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, shows white large shell eggs are now $2.52 per dozen nationally. On January 21st, that same carton of eggs would have run an American about $6.49. Trading economics show eggs were over $8 a dozen the first week of March. Shell egg demand posted a slight improvement heading into the Memorial Day weekend, but remained well below average in the continuation of a trend that began during the sharp price increase in late winter, the USDA Egg Markets Overview said in a weekly publication. Weaker demand and a lull in new cases of bird flu helped cool prices. The same month, Reuters reported that the U.S. had increased imports of eggs from Turkey, Brazil, and South Korea in an attempt to increase supplies amid an ongoing bird flu outbreak that has killed nearly 170 million chickens, turkeys, and other birds since 2022. So eggs reaching a low not seen in quite some time. They have plummeted since Trump took office after hitting
an all-time high back in March, so dropping 61% since Trump took office. Also on economic numbers, and I think this is very important to highlight, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent took a victory lap yesterday over recent inflation numbers that show a key benchmark hitting a 4-year low, hailing it as vindication against the naysayers who predicted Trump's tariffs would cause prices to soar. Bessent kind of went after, if you will, CBS's Face the Nation anchor, Margaret Brennan, for asking him skeptical questions in March about studies by the Peterson Institute and other groups that predicted tariffs would spur inflation. Margaret, when we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Calling her out directly. On Sunday, Brennan pressed Bessent on a recent Wall Street Journal piece by famed Republican strategist Karl Rove, who ticked through the economics and math of tariffs and warned that they could cost the GOP its majorities in Congress. Bessent said, actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen? Last month, prices for consumers rose 2.3% over the year in April, down from 2.4% in March, marking the lowest year-over-year increase in over 4 years, according to the Labor Department. Notably, April is a month when Trump announced, then paused, much of his planned Liberation Day tariffs. Many economists believe that the U.S. still hasn't yet felt the full impacts of those tariffs. In March, during her interview with Bessent, Brennan pointed to studies warning that tariffs would put upward pressure on prices. Bessent shrugged off one of those studies, calling it alarmist. So there you are. There's some economic numbers. Also, no, I'm running late. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. We were going great guns there with waves for a while. Slowing down, that's okay. Just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition. Hard to believe, hour number 1 almost in the books. So get your last minute comments in for this hour, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In today's world, securing your business is more important than ever. Protected with Boss Security's state-of-the-art alarm systems. When seconds matter, trust the experts. Boss Security is proud to safeguard local businesses across the Twin Tiers. Contact Boss Security today.
It's the 2025 Cardboard Boat Regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
Since 1983, Nissan has been assembling award-winning vehicles for you, right here in America. And we're committed to keeping our lineup affordable and free from new tariffs. That's why we've lowered MSRP on our best-selling Rogue and Pathfinder. So you can get the car you want, at the price you want, knowing Nissan is here for you at the Nissan Summer Sales Event.
Now get a low $249 per month lease on Rogue, or get a low $339 per month lease on Pathfinder.
My advice to all the fathers out there, they grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
We are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. A couple of quick things to get to as we wrap up our number 1. Representative Jerry Nadler has criticized the Trump administration for sowing chaos in communities while announcing that a member of his staff was handcuffed and briefly detained at his New York City office last week. Federal Protective Services officers were responding Wednesday to reports that protesters were inside Nadler's district office in Manhattan. At the time, a protest was taking place outside an immigration courthouse in the same facility as the congressman's office. Quote, based on earlier incidents in a nearby facility, FPS officers were concerned about the safety of the federal employees in the office and went to the location to ensure the safety and well-being of those present. The officers were inside and came upon 4 people. Officers identified themselves and explained their intent to conduct a security check. However, one individual became verbally confrontational and physically blocked access to the office.
The officers then detained the individual in the hallway for the purpose of completing the security check. All were released without further incident. In a video of the arrest posted online, the officers were heard saying that Nadler's staff were harboring rioters and that they were conducting a check. The staff member being arrested could be heard crying during the incident. In a statement released Saturday, Nadler said the DHS officer forcefully entered his office before handcuffing a member of his staff. Nadler saying President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security are sowing chaos in our communities, using intimidation tactics against both citizens and non-citizens in a reckless and dangerous manner. The decision to enter a congressional office and detain a staff member demonstrates a deeply troubling disregard for proper legal boundaries. If this can happen in a member of Congress's office, it can happen to anyone and is happening, Nadler said. Nadler further called on Trump and DHS to halt these dangerous tactics and to abandon the expedited removal process, which he said denies due process for illegal immigrants and U.S. citizens. Okay, when we come back in the next hour, we have a few things here about New York State. Then we are going to talk about that. I guess it tied in with that tell-all book, if you will, The Original Sin by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, about the cover-up of the Biden administration. This was supposed to be about his mental acuity. This was supposed to be a way to protect or kind of rewrite history and protect the media. That has really backfired because it has shown glaringly that they were not doing their job. Jake Tapper has received a lot of criticism. We're going to talk about that when we come back. But first, New York State issues. That's where we'll kick off hour number 2. Keep your comments coming in for the Steuben Senior Services section of our program, where we read your comments and keep the conversation going. We had a very busy Friday where we covered a lot of different issues, and your comments were great. We had fun with what the bureaucratic name would be for cow counting here in New York, as those representatives from Brooklyn and Manhattan are pushing in Albany a bill that would limit cows on a farm to 700 or less. So we've had some great names on that, and we appreciate you having a little fun with us. We are going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and a statement that he released over the weekend. We also have just a couple of bills being proposed in Albany as well. And your thoughts on Corning Inc. donating $1.8 million to the Corning Painted Post School District for their budget. We can cover that, all that, and much more. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, hour number 2, mere moments away.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
It's the 20 cardboard boat regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. It's the 2025 cardboard boat regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
If you're buzzed and doing this to make yourself feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive.
And something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud. 7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting
Live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us. We got some comments coming in during the Stu Ben Senior Services section of our program. Stu Ben Senior Services, empowering seniors to age at home. Go online to StuBenSeniorServicesFund.org. Okay, some comments from viewers. One viewer suggesting that the Colorado man that was engaged in that act of terrorism late yesterday with the Molotov cocktail and the homemade flamethrower against, the Jewish community and those demanding the hostages be returned, that maybe he'll get an honorary degree from Harvard. Yes, I appreciate your point. Harvard, unfortunately, that we've seen has been a hotbed, the same with Columbia and so many others, a hotbed of anti-Semitic protests and violence and intimidation of Jewish students. It's so heartbreaking. So I appreciate your comment. Comment from a different viewer. In regard to the Corning Painted Post issue, is Corning Inc. being generous, or are they supporting poor fiscal planning? That's a fair question to ask. Ken writes in, this is off topic, but it drives me crazy that all Democrats, the legacy media, and unfortunately many others refer to the Democrat Party and their politicians as the Democratic Party, a Democratic congressman or senator, instead of the Democrat Party and Democrat congressmen or senators. While we are not a democracy, we are a republic. I think that they use the word democratic to subliminally propagandize the electoral into thinking that the Democrats are the party of democracy, the party that is for the majority of Americans. I may be tainted by my conservative views, but the Democrat Party doesn't believe in democracy. They are mostly socialists or authoritarians. And we've seen that socialism. It's very interesting. And thank you again to Stu Ben Senior Services for that section of our program. But if you've been paying attention, AOC is now the star of the Democrat Party. That there's a poll out that says that she is more liked than Harris or Trump, that I guess her socialism is growing in popularity. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But we do have some New York State issues to get to. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano released a statement over the weekend blasting the Assembly Democrat majority for recently holding two of his common sense energy-related bills in committee, which, if passed, would provide for a full cost-benefit analysis, transparency, and disclosure for ratepayers about the true cost and impact of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, green energy mandates. His first bill, which was held in the Environmental Conservation Committee, would require the Public Service Commission to conduct a full cost-benefit analysis of the technical and economic feasibility of renewable energy systems in the state of New York and to compare those impacts with other methods of electricity generation. It would also extend the unrealistic, unworkable, and costly mandates for meeting the CLCPA by an additional 10 years. Palmisano argues that this is a responsible and common sense proposal that simply provides transparency. Now, the second bill, again being held up by the Democrats in the one-party rule in Albany, is the Ratepayer Disclosure and Transparency Act, which was held in the Energy Committee, would require a monthly report on ratepayer costs and give ratepayers a clear view of how their money is being spent on utilities. This legislation would require utility companies to provide a detailed breakdown of the costs associated with the state's mandated CLCPA green energy mandates. By adding a line item expense report to utility bills, this measure would ensure greater transparency, allowing ratepayers to see exactly how their payments contribute to funding these costly and mandated green energy programs. So thank you to Phil Palmisano for sending those. And I know Joe Sempolinski has done the same, showing you what the one-party rule in Albany leads to, and it's the holding up of common sense bills and proposals. Also, coming out of Albany, the Democrat-run New York State legislature could rush through a series of bills to give convicts early parole and prevent law enforcement from keeping dangerous criminals off the street. Now, Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly warned about this on Sunday. We've talked about it with Phil and Joe in the past, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. It's another example of tying the hands of law enforcement and coddling criminals. In recent years, Democrats clawed back controversial cashless bail and discovery laws after serial criminals were let loose, triggering massive political blowback, but they haven't really done that much on bail reform. That is kind of a misstatement or a misnomer. But Donnelly said these bills undercut everything we work for every day, building strong cases, securing convictions, and ensuring justice is served. When prosecutors do the hard work of putting violent offenders behind bars, we should be backed by laws that protect that progress, not laws that allow those same criminals to return to our communities years before their sentences are complete, added Donnelly. And I think one of the good points that something that Phil Palmisano made on this is even if they are denied parole, the families of the victims still have to go through this. Every parole hearing, have to relive the horrific crimes. This is in reference to the elder parole bill. It would require inmates age 55 and older who have served at least 15 years of their sentence to be considered for early release, regardless of the seriousness of the crime committed. The measure is sponsored by Senator Brad Holman Siegel and Assemblywoman Martiza Davila. Another bill, the Earned Time Act, would make most violent felons eligible for time allowance credits, potentially slashing their prison sentence in half, according to Donnelly. The Earned Time bill is sponsored by Senator Jeremy Cooney from Rochester and Assemblywoman Ann Kells from Ithaca. A third bill, the Second Look Act, would permit prisoners to petition the court for a sentence reduction after serving 10 years, including inmates convicted of violent crimes. GOP Long Island lawmakers oppose the early parole bill, including Assemblyman Edward Raw and Senator Jack Martin, and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano has spoken out against this as well. These proposals completely disregard the pain and effort that go into holding criminals accountable. We need to help prosecutors put violent offenders behind bars, not give criminals new ways to get out early. Governor Kathy Hochul toyed with early release proposals back in April as a way to try to alleviate the prison population amid an illegal prison guard strike and a staffing shortage. She was forced to bring in the National Guard, as you know. Inmate advocates have pushed for early parole and other reforms after prisoners were allegedly killed at the hands of a guard over the past year. So elder parole, we've talked about that in the past and how we're opposed to it, but just another example of New York State sending the signal that we coddle criminals, that we support the criminals more than the heroes in law enforcement. Also, a bill being proposed by Joe Griffo, Senator Joe Griffo from Oneida. New Yorkers may finally be able to go hands-free at the gas pump. A bill being introduced will allow the use of clips to hold open gas pump nozzles throughout the Empire State. The device is already legal in the country's 49 other states. Griffo said he sponsored the legislation after investigating the matter following complaints from constituents. Interesting. How many complaints are you getting on that? Now, listen, in the winter, this will be very nice. This bill would bring New York State in line with the rest of the country and protect the elderly and other New Yorkers by limiting their exposure to harsh and potentially dangerous weather conditions when pumping gas. And it would rein in government overreach, Griffo said. I'm curious how many constituents called on that. I just hadn't thought of it. I like the idea. Your thoughts on it? Good idea, bad idea? The bill introduced on April 15th will be supported by many, especially given advances in pump technology and station safety features. New York's fire code has not allowed gas clips since the early 1980s when self-service pumps were first approved. There were concerns then that the devices could fail and allow gas to overflow out of a vehicle, but the worries have been unwarranted based on use in other states. Griffo has compared the gas clip rules to government overreach, limiting the number of gallons per minute that flow through shower heads and other appliances such as dishwashers, washing machines, and toilets. President Trump signed an executive order last month calling for an immediate end to water pressure regulations implemented by Biden and Obama, touting the action will make America's showers great again and keep his signature blonde hair, quote, beautiful. That took a weird turn. Now, there has been some criticism of Democrats in Albany over their push to force Massapequa to drop its Chiefs mascot as part of a ban on Native American imagery in school logos. The GOP sees the mascot controversy as another example of Democrat-run Albany pushing fringe issues and wants them to pay a political price for it. John McLaughlin, a pollster for New York Republicans and President Trump, said, "We have a lot of chiefs and volunteer fire departments in New York." That's a good point. Hochul and the Democrats should focus on improving reading and math and not indoctrinating our students. He noted that Hochul is already unpopular on Long Island. She has a 55% unfavorable rating in the New York suburb. The comments came after U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon visited Massapequa on Friday and threatened to bring civil rights cases against the Empire State for forcing the high school to ditch its mascot. Now, this is interesting. The event was coordinated by Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman. Now, he's up for re-election. It's also been thrown around that he may run for governor. We are still waiting patiently to hear if Elise Stefanik is going to run. That is perhaps the biggest chatter when it comes to New York state politics. Will Elise Stefanik run for governor, as those polls came out and showed that she is neck and neck with Hochul, starting off, not even announcing yet. And she's already neck and neck with Governor Hochul. But Blakeman said, denigrating whole communities like Massapequa and Wausau is not a good look for Governor Hochul, who seems hell-bent on making as many enemies as she can on Long Island. Now, Blakeman's Democrat opponent for county executive, Seth Koslow, said school pride matters, but it's hard to believe this is the top concern of the federal government right now. So the National Republican Congressional Campaign Committee is using this controversy to tar Democrat incumbents up for re-election next year on Long Island and elsewhere, including Representative Tom Suozzi and Lauren Gillen. It's another day that ends in Y, so obviously Tom Suozzi and Laura Gillen's Democrat Party is more concerned with demonizing a high school mascot than lowering taxes and costs for Long Island families. Democrats are completely missing the plot, and voters will hold Suozzi and Gillen accountable for their utterly foolish, destructive, and out-of-touch agenda next fall. Suozzi told the Post Sunday, "I support the Massapequa Chiefs. This is nonsense and just another distraction from national Republicans. Congressman Suozzi supports the Massapequa Chiefs, but not the petty partisan politics that people can't stand." Anyway, there you go. There's your New York State updates. I see a lot of comments coming in. We'll get to those when we come back. Some media updates, going to tie that in with the scandal, the ever-growing scandal of the hiding of Biden's mental acuity. Have you read that book, Original Sin? Have you been following the coverage? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear from you. Also, we've been asking the question: does the grant that Corning Inc. gave Corning Painting Post School District of $1.8 million, does that change your vote when the budget goes up again? All of that and much more. Keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Don't have to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. We are locally owned and insured and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. John's Tree Service, your source for all your tree needs, where customer satisfaction is our guarantee. Give us a call today at 607-377-6513.
Need a gift for a grad, for your dad, or yourself? This month, GCP has incredible savings on Jim Beam Bourbon and Jim Beam flavors. A 1-liter bottle, normally $19.99, is just $17.99. With $4 mail-in rebate, your final cost is $13.99. 750 milliliter La Marca Prosecco, normally $17.99, is now on sale for $14.99. Perfect for celebrating any occasion. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines and Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. on
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services section of our program. Empowering seniors to age at home. Give them a call, 607-664-2298, or go online to SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Steuben Senior Services Fund. All right. Comments from viewers? Good morning. Oh, hey, good morning. Just because Corning has bailed out this school district does not take away the superintendent's responsibility to be a good steward of our tax dollars. She will take this gift as a sign she can continue her flagrant mismanagement of our tax dollars for another year. She and some of her staff need to be replaced now. Maybe they can get jobs counting cows for Aunt Kathy someplace. I'm voting no until they show some good management. Thank you very much. One of the things that I know a lot of people were critical of, and they were saying, why don't, and maybe they can't, but can't you show us what you're doing so next year is not going to be another 8% increase or another 10% increase? Can't you continue, or can't you show us what you're doing to be good stewards of that money? So saying, yes, it is high this year, we apologize, but next year we're going to keep it lower because of X, Y, and Z. Comment from a different viewer. Jack is back from the Philippines. Oh, yes, Jack, we showed you those photos, last Friday, the Friday before with Joe Sempolinski, right before he went on the air. We showed you all the fun pictures. Jack looked like he was having a great time, and that was our first international wave, I believe, where we received a wave live from the Philippines. So Jack said he's back from the Philippines. Did you know that if you are caught in the Philippines with illegal drugs, it is the death penalty? Wow. Signs are on the walls in the airports. Interesting. Also, many government buildings have the 10 Commandments outside on large stone monuments and signs. Well, thank you. I did not realize that. I appreciate that, Jack. Comment from a different viewer. I used to be proud to say I was from New York State. No longer. The local mandates and electric school buses are one of the most idiotic policies. Yes, I would agree. Mark writes in, I wish Elise Stefanik would announce she is running to beat Hochul. And I think she will if she is watching. Run, run, run. Well, I hope Elise Stefanik is watching. That would be very nice. So, thank you for those comments. I see other comments coming in I didn't get a chance to read. We'll read those in the next segment of the program. Okay, just as a quick media update before we tie in with the cover-up of Biden's mental health, NBC nightly news anchor Lester Holt called his decade-long tenure helming the network's evening broadcast the honor of a lifetime, as he said, farewell, during his final newscast on Friday. As an anchor, it has been an honor to lead this program and an honor to be welcomed into your homes. I'm so grateful for your trust. The veteran journalist who will remain at the Peacock Network on Dateline, where he has been principal anchor for 15 years, thanked viewers along with his family and crew during the heartfelt send-off. So NBC nightly news anchor Lester Holt no longer a part of that broadcast after a decade of leading the nightly news. Okay. Oh, by the way, ABC's George Stephanopoulos, and I think it's always important to remind people that George Stephanopoulos was a part of the Clinton administration. This is an example of if you are a Democrat, you will be rewarded in an administration with jobs like George Stephanopoulos's. He's on ABC's This Week. He said the scale is staggering. President Trump and his family are making hundreds of millions, potentially billions of dollars, as Trump and his administration take official actions that benefit contributors and investors. Just this week, we learned of pardons to tax cheats, including a man whose pardon was granted weeks after his mother attended a $1 million a head fundraiser with the president. The Trump Media and Technology Group raised nearly $2.5 billion from 50 institutional investors whose identities have not been disclosed. This is a fine example. Oh, then he went on to say, this is an American corruption on the scale of post-Soviet republic or a post-colonial African dictatorship. This is where we begin. That's George Stephanopoulos showing his bias. And keep in mind, These are the same people that for 4 years did not cover Biden, not just his mental health, just did not cover anything negative on Biden. Now we see this magnifying glass on Trump and the Trump administration. Well, Michael Goodwin had a piece. Do I have time for it? I don't want to run too late, but I think it's worth it. The late Irving Kristol defined a neoconservative, quote, as a liberal who got mugged by reality. It turns out the process was not limited to people of an earlier era, as the ongoing saga of Jake Tapper illustrates. The CNN anchor has been a reliable cheerleader for all things Democrats and a snide anti-Trumper, but dramatically broke ranks by daring to co-author a book about Joe Biden's cognitive decline and the White House cabal that tried to conceal it from the public. But again, to now make money off of this when he would not report on it. He actually criticized, was it Laura Trump, who called out Biden's obvious mental decline. So what they're doing is making money off of something they were a part of making a scandal. And you've got to remember, this was also to rewrite history to cover their you-know-whats. Because what he said is, well, the Biden administration said that everybody was fine, that Biden was fine. Everybody in the Biden administration said he was fine. Would he accept anybody in the Trump administration at their word? Of course not, but we'll continue. For his trouble, Tapper is being mocked by former allies and labeled a traitor, proving that telling the truth about the left is seen as a subversive act by the Washington media mob. His regular CNN viewers apparently don't want to hear the unpleasant facts either. They're used to being spoon-fed a feast of anti-Trump bile. And they appear to be punishing Tapper for going rogue by boycotting his show, because we talked last week about how his ratings have plummeted. He has plunged by 25%. Even more fascinating is Tapper's response to the attacks. Mugged by his own team simply for doing his job, he is defending himself by hitting back in ways that make him sound decidedly like a conservative. But it's important to know he is not. This is Michael Goodwin. He blasted the entire Democrat Party after left-leaning podcasters made fun of his teenage son for wanting to be a cop. They asked me about my son, and I said he's a football player and he wants to be a policeman. And their joke was, oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist. That is why you blanking are losing elections. He added, that's how the Democrat Party talks to men, not just white men, but men. It has no entry into his world. Tapper, 56, has long been a card-carrying member of the Washington Press Corps, where good standing requires a hard tilt towards Democrats. And you can find that bias from Tapper throughout his career. He got his D.C. start as a press secretary for a Democrat House member, a rite of passage that proved he belonged. Although he did on occasion show more balance than most of the media. Ever since Trump entered the arena, though, Tapper's work demonstrates that he suffers from Trump derangement syndrome. In that, he was following the CNN party line, which mindlessly parroted the Democrats' claim that Trump is a threat to democracy, and the unprecedented efforts to prosecute and bankrupt him were warranted. Because Tapper always appeared comfortable being part of that chorus, his decision to blow the lid off the Biden cover-up is all the more shocking. Now, I don't agree with Michael Goodwin there. I don't think it's shocking because, again, he was trying to protect himself and the media. And why, in rewriting this as if to claim it wasn't their fault for this scandal. Where was he hiding his passion for an inconvenient truth all these years? Another mystery is why nobody else in Washington beat him to it. After all, even as Biden slipped deeper into la-la land, says Michael Goodwin, and aides hid him as much as possible from the public, the stage managers weren't able to hide the fact that his stumbles and mumbles were growing worse. He often couldn't string two sentences together and displayed a glassy, faraway look as if he didn't know where he was. The falls and extended hands to invisible people were other big giveaways. The disturbing scenes were obvious signs of something missing, but merely pointing them out might have helped Trump, and so the legacy media stayed quiet. That's what it was all about. They didn't care if he had mental health issues. Just like that one person said last week, they would still vote for someone in a coma over Trump, right? His condition certainly made the prospect of Biden serving a second term preposterous. Yet there was no signs his family or party leaders were willing to tell him so. Despite the silence of most media, the vast majority of Americans, including the majority of Democrats, repeatedly told pollsters that Biden was over the hill and should not seek a second term. It all collapsed during that debate, as you know, where Tapper happened to be a moderator. Until that point, he had been a solid Democrat team member, even slamming Laura Trump on air over her claim that Biden was suffering from cognitive decline. If you remember, he mocked her, he sneered at her, even tried to suggest she was picking on people with a stutter. But we now learn that he has since called Laura Trump and apologized, but as she said, kind of a little too late. Thanks in part to Tapper's conversation, there is renewed energy about addressing long-standing doubts about who was making decisions and running the Biden White House. But see, now the media who did not cover this is now using this as a way to say, well, we should look into Trump. We had those stories for you last week. So they didn't do their job for 4 years, now demanding some type of scrutiny for Trump. As Tapper put it, a source told us that the president was at best a 5-person board with Joe Biden as chairman of the board. Evidence of that, with examples, will need to be flushed out, as will the question of whether Biden was so disabled that the 25th Amendment should have been invoked to sideline him. The fact that Biden, in a single term, issued more than 4,200 pardons, far above any other recent president, is already fodder for a House GOP probe. A related issue involves the use of AutoPen for Biden's signature as many leniency orders and other decisions. Did he give approval or did aides act without his knowledge? The House panel, led by Representative James Comer of Kentucky, has invited former White House aides to testify voluntarily, including top physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor. If they refuse, Comer vows to issue subpoenas. In addition to Biden's cognitive decline, the fact that he recently announced he is being treated for an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones provokes concerns about why he never disclosed that illness while in office. Some doctors may say he must have had the cancer for years for it to be so serious now. In a better world, such revelations would cause serious soul-searching in legacy newsrooms. Why did the same outlets that now produce 7 or 8 stories a day about everything Trump says and does allow the Biden White House to get away with hiding the former president's decline and sickness? In any other business, such a monumental failure by industry leaders would spark major personnel changes and reforms designed to prevent a repeat. But with the Washington Press Corps, there is no soul-searching and there will be no changes. The reason is as repugnant as it is obvious. The press hates Trump more than it loves the truth. And I thought that was such a good point by Michael Goodwin. But yeah, I wouldn't give Tapper too much credit here. He's covering this up he's showing the cover up because he wants to make sure that his hands are clean, even though they're not, but trying to convince you and rewrite history. We've got a couple other things on this, so stay with us. I realize I'm running just a little bit late. We'll read your comments when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Distracted driving is dangerous, but some people just can't seem to help themselves. There's the steering wheel propper, the sneak-a-peeker, the fast scroller, the nightlighter. And it's not long until they become the fender benderer, the got-a-ticketer, the veering off the road, the driver who kills someone. Enough with the phones already. Just put them down.
Scamming seniors is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams, Wednesday, June 4th at the Main Place in Hornell, New York, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Also, the Steuben County Office for the Aging will provide tips on emergency preparedness, June 4th at 12 p.m. To learn more, go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row. Attention all, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We got a lot of viewer comments coming in during our Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program. Contact them today at SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Comments from viewers. This viewer writes, a Democrat calling someone as a threat to democracy when Democrats hold dear a socialist agenda. If this is not yet another hypocrisy or not more hypocrisy of the Democrat Party, then I have two heads. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. The book of fiction, Original Sin, does not interest me in the least. Plus, I would never support a Democrat agenda or a registered Democrat. Thank you very much. Mark writes in, how the heck are they going to end the war in Ukraine when Russia bombs at will and Ukraine sends in drones and destroys Russian planes? I don't see any give at all. Right, they are going to meet today in discussion, but it does look very tricky. Ken writes in, as usual, if we pay attention to what is being discussed around us, we could learn something new every day. Frankly speaking, the most informative political talk show in New York educated me once again. Well, thank you, Ken. I never realized that New York State politicians were responsible for New York's self-serve gas pumps not having the ability to stay on hands-free. Now, I have another reason to try and vote the Democrats out of power, as if anyone outside of the larger cities really need another reason to do that. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I didn't realize it was where they had those automatic pumpers, essentially, in 49 other states, or all 49 states, and I'm wording that strange, in 49 states, and we're the only ones that did not. Really interesting. So we're talking about the Biden cover-up. According to the Wall Street Journal over the weekend, missing from the hand-wringing over the massive cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline is demand for accountability. That's from author Kenneth Chakajian. No, if Congress takes seriously that it should act when Americans are cynically hoodwinked, then it must begin an investigation into the cover-up that matches or exceeds the Senate Watergate Committee hearings. Crucially, where decisions with potentially catastrophic international consequences made by an enfeebled President Biden or by the Politburo aides who hid his true state. Get going, he said. Each day that an investigation is delayed, central players might be destroying records, replacing cell phones, and following Hillary Clinton's example by wiping their email servers. So the Wall Street Journal demanding Watergate-type hearings into that scandal. The head of a pro-American energy watchdog group says his investigation into several of former President Joe Biden's climate-related executive actions uncovered criminal and evil evidence that members of the White House acted without presidential authorization while he was in mental decline. This is energy expert Daniel Turner, founder of Power the Future, the nonprofit that released a report last week revealing that at least 8 major actions taken by President Biden were allegedly signed via AutoPen. While Power the Future's review covered actions related to climate and energy, including the January 6th offshore drilling ban and the March 2023 Arctic drilling ban, a March 2025 report from the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project found that every document we could find with Biden's signature over the course of his presidency, besides the ones announcing the end of his re-election campaign, had the same AutoPen signature. CNN's Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's Original Sin has been dominating the media cycle as it became the first major report out of the mainstream left to accuse White House officials of orchestrating a massive cover-up of Biden's faltering mental health. So again, Turner saying, I got so angry when I have these conversations about this because I deal with the people whose livelihoods were destroyed. It takes a lot of effort to not curse and be profane because they did to the American people. What they did to the American people is not just criminal, it's evil. It's genuinely morally reprehensible. The damage that we did, that we continue to do to the American people, all because we're worried about Donald Trump. When you're impersonating the president, when you're impacting the war in Ukraine, because like I said, when you ban the export of liquid natural gas, what we did was forced Russia to sell more natural gas to the Turks, to the South Koreans, to other countries who just ignored the ban of Russian fossil fuels. And then the French and the Germans and the Italians just bought it from mediators, right? So we impacted wars. People died as a result of this, quite literally. So there is no hiding behind presidential privilege. There is no saying, well, I was working for the president and you can't subpoena me. These are really allegedly criminal acts that are worthy of investigation. You can't act in persona president, right? You can't commandeer the president's auto pen and put forward these policies. Now, coming from Fox News, former President Joe Biden's inner circle considered First Lady Jill Biden one of the most powerful first ladies in history. We're going to talk about that when we come back. I just realized I'm running late, as I have been all morning long. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Hey there, Jane Lynch here. You want to hear something funny? Too bad. You want to hear something uplifting that will inspire you? Good. Because today, I want to talk to you about Direct Relief, a humanitarian organization that does seriously good work when it counts. Fires, hurricanes, earthquakes. When disaster strikes, Direct Relief immediately shows up with medicines, medical supplies, and everything doctors and nurses need to save lives. Let's ship her out! Every day across the United States and around the world, they're making an enormous difference. If someone needs help, Direct Relief helps. No politics, no red tape. Hey, what you doing over there?
Oh, I'm packing insulin for kids with diabetes.
See, every box here is literally a lifeline for someone in critical need. So check them out at directrelief.org. You might just bring a smile to someone's face.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, wrapping up this discussion on Joe Biden, this book, Original Sin. As I had mentioned, Jill Biden is considered one of the most powerful first ladies in history, according to Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. Dr. Biden was a strong protective force in the White House. She also, without question, is one of the chief supporters of the president's decision to run for re-election and one of the chief deniers of his deterioration, calling her complicit in the cover-up of Biden's cognitive decline. As Biden's sister Valerie Biden Owens and his adult children Hunter Biden and Ashley Biden stayed away from Biden's presidential campaign, Jill took on a more prominent role. Quote, she weighed in on potential hires and reviewed many of the campaign ads before they were aired. She campaigned hard and peppered aides with questions about how many reporters would be at her events. The White House began referring to Jill Biden's spousal programming events on foreign trips, and her team would request talking points, which Tapper and Thompson said some national security officials found strange. All right, now Senator Josh Hawley said on Fox News Channel over the weekend, he said a Secret Service whistleblower revealed Biden would get lost in his closet in the morning in the White House. Am I overstating it when I say this is the biggest White House presidential scandal in history, Sean Hannity said. Now, we have been calling it that for quite some time here on the program. Senator Hawley saying, no, I don't think so. Because listen, I'll tell you something that I haven't said before because it came from a Secret Service whistleblower this past year. I talked to so many of them after the attempted assassination of President Trump. But this Secret Service whistleblower actually was assigned to Biden. And he told me that Biden used to get lost in his closet in the morning in the White House. I mean, the guy literally stumbled around in the White House residence, couldn't find his way out of his own closet. I mean, this is outrageous. We were lied to. And you know as well as I do, the press has a huge role in this. I mean, the press actually is really important in America. They're supposed to report the truth. It's what you do every night. It's not what the liberal media did, though. They sold this country out for years, and they did it for power, and they need to be held accountable. And it will be curious to see. I know some in the Democrat Party have said this is something that the Democrat Party will be paying for years to come. Now, over the weekend, Bill Clinton denied these claims in the book Original Sin. I saw President Biden not very long ago, and I thought he was in good shape, Clinton said. I had never seen him and walked away thinking he can't do this anymore, Clinton said. Clinton also said he didn't read that book, Original Sin, and dismissed its alarming claims during that interview. I didn't want to because he's not president anymore, and I think he did a good job. I think we are facing challenges today with our president in our history. Some people are trying to use this as a way to blame him for the fact that Trump was reelected. The only concern I thought he had to deal with was, could anybody do that job until they were 86? We'd had several long talks. He was always on top of his briefs. All right. Miranda Devine said it could be Jill Biden's what they call work husband. Anthony Bernal may have been a key player in covering up Joe's cognitive decline. There are a few doubts in the White House about Jill Biden's role in covering up her husband's cognitive deficits as she urged him to run for re-election. Carolyn Leavitt made the point crystal clear from the press room last week, saying the former First Lady needs to answer for lying to the American people and shielding her husband away from cameras. But she also continued, this is Carolyn Leavitt saying, I think, frankly, the former First Lady should certainly speak up about what she saw in regards to her husband and when she saw and what she knew. But now they're suggesting, and even some in the Democrat Party calling it elder abuse and the like, but Arizona-born former child actor Anthony Bernal played a big role in this con job, more so than what has been previously acknowledged. David Hogg recently ousted as vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, and Deterin Jones, a former Biden White House staffer, points the finger at Bernal as the chief puppeteer in a new undercover video from Project Veritas released just last week. Bernal had an enormous amount of power, according to David Hogg. Now, Victor Davis Hanson, how am I doing on time? We're doing good. Said a few Democratic office holders, activists, and pundits are finally coming to their senses that their brand is toxic to a majority of the American people. So you talk about, will there be a punishment kind of for the Democrat Party other than the huge landslide victory for Trump and Republicans in November, but in the future going forward with this cover-up? I know it's cost many legacy media outlets their ratings because of this cover-up and loss of credibility, of course. But there's also, we've asked this question on the program numerous times, is there soul searching being done? I don't believe by the legacy media. I think Jake Tapper's book was to actually cover up the media's role in this. But will the Democrats learn when it comes to their push for woke policies? And we talked earlier about the battle in Long Island at the state level to end the Massapequa Chiefs name, those kind of policies. But a few office holders, and I mentioned last week that they spent $20 million to research how they can relate to young men better. The Biden administration killed what was left of it in a number of ways, meaning the brand for the Democrat Party. First, it lied to Americans about the cognitive decline and cancerous condition of President Joe Biden, both while in and after office. Only when caught did the complicit media fess up that the Biden inner circle serially misled the American people about Biden's inability to fulfill the duties of the presidency. Second, left-wing politicos used Biden as a kind of a scapegoat, if you will. His job was to pose as a moderate to push through the most radical and unpopular agenda in the last half century. Only that way would old Joe Biden from Scranton and his backroom handlers ram down the throat of the American people unpopular policies that nearly wrecked the country. Third, without either a functional president or viable initiatives, the new hard left Democrats sought to brand Donald Trump as Hitler and half the country who supported him as fascists. For nearly 9 years, the Democrats launched one failed hoax after another, as you know. So what the idea is, and Victor Davis Hanson goes through and shows all the times, all the names that they've called you, all the names they've called Trump. But he also said the left created DEI, the use of race in every political issue. And like any addict, toxic drug, they now can neither survive with DEI nor without it. Now, Andrea Pizer said, I know I'm running just a little bit late, but Michelle Obama couldn't be more wrong about women Trump voters. As Andrea Pizer wrote, I'm a pro-choice feminist and a Democrat who just happened to vote for Donald Trump for president. And I resent Michelle Obama's sneering, demeaning, strangely ignorant, and massively sexist remarks about women, our reproductive systems, and especially our vote. And we talked about this last week, where Obama said, I attempted to make the argument on the campaign this past election was that there's just so much more at stake. And because so many men have no idea about what women go through, women's reproductive health is about our life. It's about the whole complicated reproductive system that the least of what it does is produce life. Anyway, so without getting too much further into this, Andrea Pizer, a pro-choice feminist, a Democrat, saying Michelle Obama couldn't be more wrong about women Trump voters. But we got to take a short break. I heard the corning whistle, so stay with us. We'll read your comments when we come back. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Attention, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at WatkinsGlen.com/Waterfront Festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We have a lot of viewer comments. This section of the program brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Go online to SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. So comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank from sunny Caton. Well, hey, thank you for watching in Caton. I still don't use the schools for anything, so I will still vote against the budget. Do any of the Democrats that are so concerned with school mascots ever address the real problems that the Native American communities face? Poverty, substance abuse, missing abused women, etc. No, they don't. They focus on mascots, right? We talked about this in the past. If you look at the polling going back to when this was all the talk of Washington, the Washington football team, there was polls showing that the Native American communities could care less about a mascot, but it took kind of the left to push that narrative as compared to the actual Native American community. Comment from Rick. Jamie Dimon says said good morning. Good morning, Rick. Jamie Dimon says China ain't backing down and we need to fix the enemy within. Now Japan buys U.S. steel. Trump said he would never let that happen, so he goes to their big dedication today and promptly tags an additional 25% on all imported steel to 50%. We'll see if we can throw up a few more foundries in the next couple of weeks to get out of the tariff. What does Trump smoke on that airplane? He needs to hit Elon up. Oh, yeah, because the New York Times is, again, and I thought he did a great job of responding, Musk that is, saying the discredited New York Times that had the Russian Gate hoax, et cetera, but they were suggesting that he was using drugs during that time, that he was working at the White House. Rick continues, Dr. Kennedy lied about the CDC striking down that healthy kids don't need the COVID vaccine. He doesn't use science and data, and he is a liar. I'm still shocked by the left now hating a Kennedy. I'll never get used to that. But now they were talking about Trump pardoning Sean Diddy Combs when he gets his due. I think Trump has an itty-bitty brain, okay? But this is where it's always interesting on the political discussion. Rick, though we don't necessarily see eye to eye, then we do when it comes to the school budget. Corning Inc., this again, Rick. Corning Inc. bails out the school district. Now the super staff will all get their raises. Bunch of baloney. Corning says the donation was to ensure a quality education for students, which everyone is obviously for. People don't vote no about that. They voted no because the largest chunk of the proposed budget was for raises and benefits to staff and retirees. The salaries are out of sight, and the superintendent was looking for greater than a 9% increase. Bunch of baloney. Vote no. Have a good week. Well, thank you, Rick. I hope that you have a good week as well. Comment from a different viewer. That's funny, Sleeping Joe getting lost in his closet. Sleepy Joe. Yes, that was Trump's term for him. The only time I got lost in a closet was when I was drunk years ago. Well, thank you, Mark. Interesting. Friday, Joy Behar said Democrats should stop trying to connect with men through language and instead teach them not to be sexist. And this ties in with the struggle that Democrats are having to reach young men. Joy Behar saying, so since Trump scored big with young male voters last election, Democrats are spending $20 million to learn how to speak their language. You heard it right, $20 million just to talk to boys. So this is a good idea, or is it a waste of money? She said, you wonder what I think? I think it's a waste of money. Maybe these guys should spend their money on teaching men to not be such sexists. Maybe that's it. So lecturing, again, not learning the message. But a vast majority of Americans don't see Democrats as a party with strong leaders that get things done, according to CNN's recent poll. When asked about which party has strong leaders, 40% of American adults said Republicans, compared to 16% Democrats and 43% on neither. Asked about which party can get things done, 19% felt that applied to Democrats compared to 36% who said Republicans and 44% who felt neither. All this comes as a record share of Americans, 58%, want to see the federal government step up and do more to tackle problems vexing the country. That's a 30-year high for that figure. Generally speaking, over recent decades, a majority of respondents have faulted the government for trying to do too many things when asked the question by CNN. Now, according to a poll being reported by Empire Report, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is viewed positively by more Americans than Trump and Harris. Ocasio-Cortez has been seen as a polarizing figure in politics and within the Democrat Party. She has drawn backlash, as we know, from even her own party. But new polling released by Atlas Intel, which has been described by election analyst Nate Silver as top rated and was described as the most accurate pollster of the 2024 and 2020 election season, showed AOC ranked third among politicians included in the survey in terms of Americans who had a positive view of her. The Congresswoman was also one of just 3 political leaders with an overall net positive image. Only former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama ranked higher than AOC. Interesting. Now they're saying, and we had that poll last week that said she is the face of the Republican Party. So we are going to, wow, this show went quickly. We got to take our last break. Get your last minute comments in. We'll read them before we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Attention all, it's the 2025 Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta, a day full of fun for all ages. Register at WatkinsGlen.com/Waterfront Festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th, 2025. Race starts at 2 p.m. On your mark, get set, row.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. I might have said, I meant to say, of course, that AOC is the face of the Democrat Party. I don't know if someone's suggesting I said Republican. Well, if I did that, obviously I made an error there. Trump clearly the face of the Republican Party. AOC now the face of the Democrat Party. Comment from a different viewer. And again, this is the Steuben Senior Services section of our program. Visit them at SteubenSeniorServicesFund.org. Comment from a different viewer. Frank, enjoy the few days of sunshine and have a great day. Thank you, Mark. You too. And a comment from a different viewer. Jill Biden's involvement was far more than just a cover-up. She actually had the military band write an entrance song for her as though she was president. Thank you very much for all the comments this morning. Now, Tim Walz, whose name's being thrown around for potentially running in 2028. Now we know he was vice presidential candidate. He said the Democrats need to be a little meaner and bully the blank out of Trump, and that it's going to be a challenging few years. I don't know if that's the right kind of rhetoric when we've seen the kind of political violence in the streets. Wes Moore has started speculations that he may enter the 2020 race for president. The governor of Maryland said Democrats must adapt and change, causing speculation that he may run in 2028. Now, Senator Cory Booker is under scrutiny for delivering an alleged Nazi salute to California Democrats, while quipping the New Jersey Democrats won't get the same scrutiny Elon Musk did when he raised his arm back in January. Also, and that is making a little bit of the news rounds. How are we going to do here? Are we doing fine? I got to move quickly. They are reporting on kind of this palace intrigue that Musk was not liked as much by Trump as originally thought. Trump asked Musk if Doge was, we'll say, baloney, then called him half boy. Okay? He's 50% genius and 50% boy, he told. This is what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. So he started to doubt Musk and Doge's promise to cut $1 trillion. We saw this last week that they're trying to create this kind of controversy behind the scenes. Also, over the weekend, Musk denied that report from the New York Times that he was using ketamine and other drugs. In a post, Musk said, "To be clear, I am not taking drugs. The New York Times was lying their blanks off. I tried prescription ketamine a few years ago and said so on X. So this is not even news. It helps for getting out of dark mental holes, but haven't taken it since then." That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the comments this morning, all the waves. We had a blast. So you'll have to join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will see you tomorrow bright and early. I look forward to it already.
Scamming seniors is a huge problem today. Worldwide, seniors lost $4.8 billion to scammers in 2024. The Steuben County Office for the Aging is here to help. Come to our seminar, Recognizing and Avoiding Financial Scams, Wednesday, June 4th at the Main Place in Hornell, New York, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to identify scams, how to protect yourself, and fraud watch tips. Also, the Steuben County Office for the Aging will provide tips on emergency preparedness, June 4th at 12 p.m. To learn more, go to steubencountiny.gov/235.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hustle Sins in Amara Heights. At Hustle Sins, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hustle Sins now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hustle Sins is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hustle Sins.